What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi and Eric Sheetaber. We're going to be talking through this 10-game NFL slate. It's 11 games on FanDuel, and I think it's actually an interesting 11th game, so I'm finding myself on FanDuel getting to a little bit more of that. But I went to the Dodger game last night, so I had a very, very short night's sleep. That was I think it's the longest baseball game in like months. It was like a 4-hour game. It was more scoring down in the first 5 innings than there was in basically all the other playoff games combined, except for the Yankee KC game.
What was the final last night in the Dodgers?
It was 7-5, but literally every inning, I think the Dodgers left at least 2 runners on, like first and third, second and third. So it was and there was challenges and there was all kinds of stuff, but it was a phenomenal game. Felt like they were literally dead at the beginning, and then Shohei sort of woke everybody up, and a great time. So happy to have that. Shout out to DraftKings for the tickets. Sheets, how are you doing? How's your weekend been?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Got out a little bit yesterday. We did there was this thing one of my neighbors runs called Man Day, 15th annual Man Day, where they do like stupid shit, and I including like tricycle races and like played dodgeball and then like and street hockey, just stuff that I shouldn't be doing. But I was able to manage my minutes pretty well. Nice load management. Maybe a couple of seconds here, a couple of seconds there. So yeah.
Oh man, that's pretty funny. I that sounds like fun actually to me. I wish I need something like that.
It is fun. I needed to get out. The good news is there's if anything happened to me, we have a endless supply of painkillers in this house. So
well, that's at least some good news. Just for what it's worth, guys, we don't have Brody today. We're going to be going through just the two of us and talking about what we like, starting with stacks probably, and then getting into quarterbacks. I can never figure out whether we start with stacks or finish with stacks, but I think it's better just to start with them.
Yeah, it is a shorter slate, right? Mm-hmm. Because of the London game today.
Yep.
It's kind of a weird game, by the way. It seems as though the Jets are really not bad, but they just Aaron Rodgers just shot himself in the foot a couple of times. This Jets defense is legit. Minnesota's really good too. I don't think either of these teams might be ready to make that next level stuff, but I think these teams, both their defenses are very they're very tough, and when you get into the playoffs, if you can get into the playoffs, these things travel pretty well. So
absolutely. Well, I don't think that I think the Vikings are pretty safe to be a good.
I think he disappeared on me. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue on myself here. Shoot. Hold on a second. All right. What's up, K9? If you could just confirm that you hear me, I will continue until Bobby gets here. Anybody just confirm that they see? Well, you won't be able to see my screen yet until I share it, but as long as you can hear me, I'll continue. Just want to make sure that it's me who is here. Is everybody here? Okay, thanks, K9. So what we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk about what's really important, and that is being live in the Triumphant Warrior on the League of Legends slate. This is really all that matters on a Sunday, right? Is whether I can get there in the 3.3K guaranteed Triumphant Warrior League of Legends. Does anybody really care about the football? I mean, we really want to just focus on the League of Legends. I guess not. I guess we got to do the football. All right. I'm just going to go over, I guess, kind of who I have right now. And and a couple of settings that I think are pretty relevant for today. First of all, let's look at, this is my DraftKings main slate exposures. Like right now, I'm actually getting 38% Green Bay stacks. Those guys are all pretty cheap, and we're going to get into the individual ones in a minute. Now, again, a little bit of context. I am playing the 150 in the Millie Maker and some bigger buy-ins as well, but 38% Green Bay stacks. That's a lot. But we get into the actual players here, and again, I'm using SaberSim as the example. Let's see, just as far as the raw exposures here. I'm getting 43% Jaden Reed, 41% Tucker Kraft. That's kind of crazy, isn't it? And then 30% Dontavian Wicks. I probably should pare that down a little bit, but right now I'm really jamming this stuff in. So that's one thing. The second thing I'm kind of noticing, I'm just looking at my exposures right now. Again, I'm gonna redo everything at noon, but 37% Michael Pittman Jr. Or let's talk about this for a second. These Colts with Joe Flacco are showing up. And I don't exactly know. I mean, I guess I know why. Flacco looked good last week, but I mean, he's still freaking 100 years old. I mean, I don't know about this whole Flacco business today. I don't know what to say. It's kind of funky though, right? To get so much, first of all, so much Packers and so much of this Michael Pittman Jr. play. But we go back into exposures, and then they're kind of the more normal plays, like Seattle against the Giants team that I don't know if the Giants should be able to keep up today. They don't have what's his name Neighbors, and I don't think they have Singletary either. We'll deal with that. Oh, so you're saying this Jacksonville game has weather issues. Okay. So yeah, so that's sort of interesting. And then the other stacks are kind of like the normal looking stacks, like Seattle, like I mentioned. I mean, they're kind of humming right now, and I don't know. I don't know if the Giants can keep it together to make it like a shootout or anything like that, but I think that Seattle is going to probably have good starting field position for this game, and they'll probably have good touchdown upside. I do like that. Then the San Francisco, they're showing up as a really good stack as well. You got all these guys back, and it's a good matchup against home against New England. So yeah, and again, same issue in that whatchamacallit, in that you don't know if this game's going to stay close. Then the one that I think is going to get a lot of love for a good reason is this Cleveland-Washington game. It's kind of weird, right? I mean, who would have thought that a year or two ago Cleveland-Washington would have like upside? But Washington in this last couple of games has shown a couple of things. Number one, that they can move the ball, and number two, that they can't stop anybody. So it's kind of ugly to play Deshaun Watson at this point in the cycle, so to speak, about Deshaun Watson. But nonetheless, I mean, this game could kind of blow up, and it's also kind of scary to think of stacking teams against Cleveland, but it is what it is, and Washington has been very proficient offensively. And then the Rams are interesting to me because the Rams actually play well with Green Bay. Like you could do a game stack of Green Bay, LA, and again, you have some value in the Rams. And in addition to the value on the Rams, you have Kyren Williams, who was probably the most popular, if not the most popular running back on the slate. I already mentioned the little Colts. Jacksonville is kind of a fun, it's a weird stack to play considering the weather, but this is kind of sick. But I mean, you have to kind of accept the projections that they account for that. The other thing about the weather, remember, what affects what affects scoring most in the weather games is not rain but wind. So that's something to think about. Hey, what's up, Bobby?
Sorry about that.
So I was going through the stacks here, and I guess I'll just kind of throw it to you because I'm just about done talking about the stacks. What stacks do you like today on DraftKings?
Yeah, so I was higher on the Indy Jacksonville game, but I'm kind of dropping a little bit of my interest because I that the weather in that game is just, it doesn't feel like it's going to be ideal. They're saying up to 25 miles an hour wind. It's going to be raining. But that is one that I'm going to have some exposure to. I really like the Baltimore-Cincy game, both sides of it. I think Baltimore, gets lower owned because they're expensive to play Henry. And I think you play Henry with Lamar. People forget, Henry's been Henry's been obviously the best running back, and you've got basically the best running back, and Lamar has been still as the highest scoring quarterback. And I just feel like that game's not getting enough love. Buffalo-Houston is next for me. Tied Buffalo, Houston, and Green Bay and the Rams. And then I have some interest in the Giants, Seattle, and a little bit of interest in Arizona, San Francisco, but that's the order sort of which I'm doing it.
Yeah. So I'll just let you know what I got. I'll give them a quick summary is that I'm going to redo everything at noon after everything comes in, but getting just tons of Green Bay. Just tons. And then Seattle, San Francisco. The Cleveland-Washington game is interesting. I was mentioning to everybody that who would have thought that 2 years ago or a year and a half ago that these two teams would be teams you'd want to play in DFS. You know what I mean? Like Washington we were playing their defense every week. Cleveland you couldn't do anything against them, and now I mean Washington is like almost like Coors. So I think that game could go nuts. And then I was thinking about this Colts thing. I mean, people were playing the Colts, and I was getting all kinds of Michael Pittman Jr. and stuff like that. But boy, oh boy, I mean, Flacco, okay, he had nice day this last game, but I mean, I think he's going to come down into the freaking driving rain and whatever. He's over it. I don't think he's going to be particular. I'm not. I think I might pare down some of that, even if I'm getting to it. I'm imagining that the weather and the wind is going to reduce the projections next time I run them.
Probably.
So I'm hoping that's the case. So as far as stacks go, like you mentioned, Rams, Green Bay game stack certainly makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle, San Francisco, Cleveland, Washington, Jacksonville again, depending on the weather. And it's funny, I didn't get to the Ravens thing, but I can't give you a reason why. That's exactly type of thing. And the other game that I guess it's just people are too expensive, but how is Buffalo Houston not being owned? You know what I mean? Like maybe it's just the pricing or whatever. But that's that game could put up 60. So I think there are options here. One thing I am going to do, by the way, today, I am going to make sure that I must set rules, but to be very stingy with my stacks. In other words, I really want to be pure. I want like at least one receiver and a run back. If not more. I think if the scoring has picked up, the offenses have picked up, and I just think the ceilings are a little higher. So I want to make sure that to access those if possible.
And this is we've got like the highest total games we've had. The combined total, even though 10 games is still like as high as the normal total is with 13 games. So if you add all the games together, so I agree with that actually a little bit more today, and it's good for a hand builder like me, which I'm doing hand builds today. It's I like all that. By the way, I almost took down the big one yesterday, the baseball one. And it was pretty cool to be at the game and have a chance to have your guy up with the bases loaded and literally if he gets a double, I'd ship it. It was kind of fun, but I didn't quite get there. Anyway,
you want to do the positions? Yeah,
let's do it. So right now, and again, I'm going to pare this back a little bit. I have Trevor Lawrence, Love, Lamar, and Burrow, with Burrow and Stroud all at like basically the majority of my quarterback pool, about like 13%. But I'm going to pare back some of the Lawrence. But that's who I have as my favorite quarterbacks. I also get, again, I like the Burrow. I like a little bit of Purdy, but I don't like the ownership. So I just probably going to go a little bit away from that. But my main one is going to be over the field is going to be Lamar.
For me, it's Jordan Love, and that's not going to be particularly low owned, but I just have a lot of it right now. But we'll see what happens when I run these again. And then not surprisingly, Geno, Brock Purdy, Deshaun Watson. Like right now, I have Flacco. I'm just not a believer. I don't know what to say. I'm not a believer in my 37% projected ownership on freaking Michael Pittman in the driving wind. I'm gonna have to do something about that.
Yeah, especially like Flacco's big strength has always been the same thing, that he can throw the ball downfield, and that's going to be a lot harder to do with 25-mile-an-hour winds in the rain than it is indoors, which is where he's used to been. He's mostly been he had most of his success recently in the even last year when he came back to Cleveland. They won that game at Houston. They battled in the playoffs, and he had put up huge scores, but those were all indoors. And I just think this is not the ideal situation. The only thing with the Love thing that I think this might end up, maybe I'm wrong because the ownership's not saying it's going to be. I really think Love is going to be like 20+% owned. And that's just really weird for a quarterback, but that's okay. I mean, look, if you want to ask me how that game doesn't get there, I don't exactly know. I feel like I considered at some point this week, like maybe just making a rule where I have at least one player from that game in every lineup, because you have a great opportunity for Jacobs, Kyron Williams, and Whittington. You've got the cheap receivers with Dobbs out, and you've got the spend up for Reed. Like every tight ends look great. Everything about that game seems really good. Even if you don't stack it, I just think you're going to end up with a lot of pieces of it. And I think they are good pieces, seeing how the Rams defense has been so far this season. And even Green Bay, they've sort of the feast or famine defense, but defenses don't travel as well in general. They're playing in the dome. So I expect that game to get things going a little bit. The only way I think it really gets hurt is the rushing game gets going, but I like both running backs a lot too, which I guess we'll get into running backs in a minute. Chiefs, you want me to start off with running backs, or do you want to go?
Yeah, sure.
So I've got in terms of my exposure, Kyron is my highest owned, and there's a lot of good options and there's a lot of funky ways to build this week, but I just found myself with him as the player that I felt the most comfortable with. And it's very close. Derrick Henry is my next highest owned, along with Jordan Mason. Basically, I have both of those guys almost 40%. I'm playing almost all running backs in my flex, not all, but almost all. Kenneth Walker is my next highest owned at 30%, followed by Josh Jacobs. I am using the Tracy as a little bit of value. We've seen that teams can run on Seattle, and he's a 4,300. He's 4,800 on FanDuel, by the way, which is like $3K on DraftKings, So I really think you want to be playing Tracy on FanDuel. I'm getting to a lot. The other one I'm overweight on that I think that I haven't heard really people talk about is I like the James Cook quite a bit. So I have like a full 20% of that. I like Ramondre Stevenson. The Trey Sermon one feels really fishy, but again, like that game environment. So as a run back, I don't mind it. Those are my main ones. And then I did go out of my way to literally make sure I just have some A-chain, because I have a feeling that everybody's completely down on this. The New England hasn't been great against the run so far. Maybe A-chain breaks it today at no ownership, but we never get to play A-chain at low ownership. So those are my guys in order, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of captured most of it. I mean, I have Jordan Mason as the highest. And then right now, then the same guys you mentioned, Kenneth Walker, Kyron Williams. Now, the Jordan Mason, Kenneth Walker has very, very nice game strips for running backs. Kyron Williams, a little less so. But yeah, he looks really good. Derrick Henry, fine. I'm getting there, but he costs a lot. I am getting right now, I guess, over the field on Tyrone Tracy. Maybe with the field, like 20%. Is that what he's going to be? I don't know.
I don't know where he ends up. He's one I could see ending up like a little lower owned at like 10% because people don't want to do it. And I could also see him at 20. I really don't have a hard time feeling that one out.
Chuba Hubbard. I have that. Josh Jacobs. Getting like 17% Javonte Williams.
Yeah, Javonte Williams has become a trendy name this week. And I have a tiny bit of exposure, but I feel like we have so many good options. Do we have to do this? Especially because like they're going to use McLaughlin too. Like they do that. Why isn't it the Jaleel McLaughlin game? And why does it have to be Javonte Williams? And if and instead of doing that, maybe play Madison for the Raiders,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just what I thought of anyway. I don't in general love spending down when you have guys. I think some of these guys are going to absolutely smash today, whether it's, like Walker, Jacobs. Again, I just love Derrick Henry here. And I love the Kyron and the Mason. But so I really feel like you want to kind of keep that pool and maybe mix in a few of these other guys, but those have got to be the main ones. And look, if you're playing a San Francisco stack, maybe you run James Conner on the other side, that kind of stuff. So I have like 5% of that, but that's basically just all my San Francisco stacks. But the main ones are going to be the spend ups, the Williams, Henry, Mason for me on both sites. Again, I just want to point out on FanDuel, there's a big gap between, like, Derrick Henry is way more expensive over there, which should keep him lower owned. But I really think you want to get to like guys like Najee Harris with no Jalen Warren on FanDuel. 6,500 is just too cheap. What's his name? I mentioned Taylor already at 4,800, which is just kind of like hilarious.
Who?
I'm sorry, Tracy. I said Taylor.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah. And yeah, you just have some super values on FanDuel, and it just depends on how you want to build. But like my guess is that guys like Jamar Chase are going to be much more popular on FanDuel than DraftKings because they're easier to get with those cheap running backs. And they're significantly cheaper percentage-wise of the salary on FanDuel than they are on DraftKings. All right, this is an interesting one because I don't remember being this spread out at wide receiver, which is strange because I like to take stands, but my stands are more on the games than they are on the individual receiving plays. So I guess I'll like literally all these guys I have within like a couple percentage points of each other, but I'll bite a little bit on the Trey Tucker as for value. Whittington is my preferred one to get to. Jaden Reed, Brian Thomas, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins. I do have the Pittman and Chase, and literally all those guys are within a couple percentage points. Then Dontavian Wicks just behind them. I'm getting to Tank Dell. Here's one play that I really like that no one is.
I didn't even know he was playing.
He's back, and no one's talking about it in a good game environment. Now, the thing is, the Bills' corners have been good so far this year, but they're young, and I think there's a potential for that game to blow up. But I think you play Tank Dell, play like Tank Dell a little bit, play some of the what's his name with him. I mean, look, it's another revenge game for Stephon Diggs. He's already talked about it this week. He wants to get in the end zone at least twice. Like he's been out there chirping, and maybe he does it this week. But the Cincinnati receivers I feel like are really good. Again, even with the weather, I still like the Jacksonville receivers a good bit. And why are we off Deontay Johnson all of a sudden? I don't think we should be. Tutu Atwell, Deebo Samuel, Keon Coleman, JSN. Amari Cooper in your Deshaun Watson stacks. Those are sort of the guys who round it out for me. Anybody for you that you're
Jaden Reed? I mean, all these Packers right now. And Deebo Samuel for San Francisco. Dontavian Wicks, I mentioned. You mentioned too. Deontay Johnson, like you said, 17% of that. What about some of these other Colts, like the Josh Downs I've heard talked about a little bit?
Yeah, I wanted to throw one thing out that you mentioned real quick because it's weird that Purdy's going to be this popular, and I understand that he's off to a terrible start this season, Ayuk. But why isn't Brandon? If you're going to play Purdy, I think that's the way you get different with the stack. You play Ayuk.
That's true.
Why wouldn't we? Like this guy is. I mean, he's probably way too cheap for what we should be paying for him, just because he's been so unproductive. But I don't think that's who he is. I still think he's one of the best, 15 receivers in the NFL. And if you're going to play that stack, why not go for that? It also is interesting how narratives change. A couple of weeks ago, Arizona was the trendy team that everybody liked, and now everybody's just convinced San Francisco's going to kill them, and that it'll be scripted out somehow. I don't know that I necessarily totally buy into that. Just my take. You know what I mean? San Francisco hasn't exactly looked like world beaters this season, so I feel like it's kind of interesting that we're just assuming that San Francisco just smashes them. I don't know necessarily buy it.
I think they smash them.
Maybe they do, but I don't think that we should just give it all of a sudden.
What I was going to say, what I was talking about in my before you came back is that if they smash them, what does that mean for fantasy? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
What happens in a 27-0 game?
Well, that's the thing with San Francisco. You probably get something from everybody. You probably
right. I know
Mason, you probably get Kittle. Yeah.
You get Mason one, you get Purdy one, you get Debo one, you know.
Yeah, and by the way, it's not like guys haven't won tournament, many $1 million tournaments with having like a game stack of a 35-3 game where you get the 5 touchdowns, right? Like it's not that crazy. But also, even if they kill him, why are we so sure that Arizona can't move the ball as well? Like I just don't buy that. I think Arizona's offense is. Because the way that they looked in one game, really, it was one game that I think everybody's off of them, and I don't necessarily buy it. So I like the run backs a little bit in that game. I like the Connor. I like getting to a little bit of Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, but I'll make those decisions mostly in the afternoon. I don't think I'm going to be able to do my 3 Eastern thing. I really want to do this, but it's just a tricky time right now. Got a lot of stuff going on, but yeah. Anyway, we can move on to tight end if you want to.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you? I know you're going to start off with Kraft is probably the highest.
I mean, 40% right now, but Colby Parkinson, same game. He looked. I don't know how many targets he actually had. It looked like he had a lot.
It felt like a lot, and I think there was like 3 penalties that came back on holding
Oh,
penalties.
maybe. Okay.
So people always look at the targets, and it's really, both pass interferences and penalties are not counting as attempts, and offensive holding or anything like that. So you're getting plays wiped away, and that's happened a number of times with Parkinson this year for the Rams. So I'm with you that it felt like he was much more involved than the numbers may indicate.
Dalton Kincaid, strange again, but again, that game is, I don't know, game is strange. What can I tell you?
Yeah, I think that the way to get different is to try to spend up. I do have Kraft and Parkinson as my highest owned, but even with that, I'm probably tiny bit below the field. I think that Brenton Strange is the pivot at the low end, but I want to make sure I want to get up to you mentioned Kincaid. I like that play. He's sort of picked up steam a little bit as the week's gone because people were not playing him at all to start the week. But mix in some Brock Bowers and George Kittle. I think that makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of speculation on this Njoku thing. If I knew Njoku was a good full go, that matchup is so prime, and that would be a great spot for him. Yeah, it doesn't sound like he's going to be a full go. It sounds like he might be limited snaps.
Oh, you think so?
That's what I've heard.
I'm getting a couple of shares of him. That's pretty much it. And this other guy's pretty good. The rookie, Eric All Jr.
Yeah, I like the All. The only thing is, and an interesting pivot off of All is his teammate, and a pivot off all these guys. Who says we can't play Mike Gesicki? He's looked good so far. Flacco likes tight ends. He's more of a traditional route runner. He's only 500 more than All. I think All is going to be a part of their future, but they're still trying to win this season, and I could see Gesicki having a nice day here. So I kind of like that play. But it's funny because I thought All was going to be getting like a lot more ownership than he currently looks like he's going to. So, he's projected at 1% ownership. Yeah, I'll gamble at 2,700 where I need it for that. I don't mind taking that shot. When you watch Cincinnati play, he's one of those guys, not necessarily targets wise. He's such a good blocker, and they love him. They talk about him all the time. You feel like he's heavily involved, but he hasn't had that big game yet. But maybe this is the week. This is an interesting week when it comes to defenses, and I wanted to ask you because I know your rule. It feels on paper, and that's always weird when defenses feel anything on paper. But it seems so obvious. If you wanted to run builds on SaberSim, you wanted to try to gamble a little bit. What if you just crossed out the Broncos, Patriots, and I think that the Commanders? I'm actually like right now, like overweight the Patriots, like right with the field on the Broncos. But those seem like such obvious plays that I just think that's what everyone's going to do. So where do you end up on defenses?
Yep.
I know you don't get
okay. So I've again, the way it looks right now, and this is what I'm not playing. Okay. But this is the SaberSim build right now is 41% Denver Broncos. And there's no way you just can't do it. It's just, first of all, well, it depends, I guess depends what tournament you're playing. You know what I mean? You want to play in the Wildcat or the, maybe not even the Wildcat, but like in single entry and in cash or whatever. Yeah. I mean, just take it. Take your 9 points and whatever. But remember, you need more juice, and there's a lot of variance in defense, and you just don't want to play the chalkiest defense. That's just my opinion. So I'm just going to limit it to 15%. Now, again, your ideas is something else. I mean, just freaking exit and pray. You know what I mean? Like the one good thing about fading the Broncos defense is I really doubt the Raiders put themselves in it. I mean, they got the most conservative coach in the United States. Okay,
that's right.
So I mean, like if it's fourth and 1 from the other team's 39, they'll punt. You know what I mean? Like this. Right. So I'm not. It doesn't feel like a big upside opponent. You know what I mean? The Raiders.
Yeah.
So just be careful. I don't say just be careful because it's not like I don't think they're going to kill you. But if you get like 6 or 7, which is, I mean, it's probably the median, right? 7, 8 points, something like that. I mean, what is it? I mean, it's just very difficult to win.
But as what happens every week, we know that somebody's going to get 22 or something. Yeah. We don't know who that's going to be.
So spread it out. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm with you. But I thought that, like, again, that's not something you have to do. If I could play the $1 tournament or something for 150 lineups, this is something I would have messed with. I would have X'd out Pittman, X'd out those 2 defenses, and probably just let it roll. Let Saberson cruise after that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Get rid of the 3 highest owned, totally high variance spots, and hey, make those guys beat you. If they beat you, you lose that day. If you don't, you might be in line for some great stuff. So
that's not a bad idea.
So I thought it was kind of interesting. I always think back to your Masters thing, even though it didn't work out that week. But when you X'd out the best 4 golfers, basically,
right.
I thought, okay, that's actually like a really interesting way to just build it. It's not what I used to think of, but now it makes some sense to me.
And then just roll, and then just you're really rooting against one guy. I mean,
right. Or like the other night, I did that with the in that the slate, the showdown slate that I won. I X'd out the who was the pitcher I X'd out on the other side against San Diego. Whoever it was, I X'd out the pitcher, and I forced in only the relievers, which obviously paid off. Anyway, so yeah, let's see what else I'm just seeing over here. Any golf sweats for you?
Yeah, I think I have 1 or 2 in the top 50, but I have to check. I haven't really checked in a while.
And literally that could be the winner by the end of the day, because it's a hugely variant situation right now. Everybody's bunched up except for the very, very top. But yeah, I was a little disappointed because I only got the 5 of 6 in my big buy-in, and they were a good 5 of 6, but it's probably not going to hold on for the cash.
It looks as though, and it's so funny when you weren't here when I took over the stream.
Yeah.
I said, okay, now let's talk about something that's really important. Is my League of Legends sweat right now? And it looks like we're in decent shape to take it down. So we will see.
Oh, okay.
It's huge. It'll be like 1,100 for first, I think.
So, it's not one of those ones. Not like the other day.
There's only one of those a year.
How about that the 3 pandemic? Our guy.
My man, yeah, that's right.
That's awesome. I love this. I love it. And when I first saw the post, I didn't even notice that you were 3rd right there.
Yeah.
That was nice.
I had maxed. I spread out everything. I had and it was a really weird slate because I don't like to talk too much about this, but it was a really highly variant slate. So you really wanted to have as many shots as possible. So I got lucky as far as that's concerned. I did have 8 I had total max entries, and I essentially put 8 completely different stacks in. And this guy freaking just had 1 entry and just fucking binked it. It was awesome.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. How many players were in that? I mean, it must have been a lot of people.
200.
Oh, it was only 200 by the end of it. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know how what kind of I didn't understand how it worked. Or whatever.
There were qualifiers all year long.
Okay. I didn't know that was like the end. I didn't know.
There was also just one shot. There's just one tournament. Yeah.
Gotcha.
6 months to generate and get an interest-free loan. Which it's basically what they do.
Right. Yeah. So I was just looking at my things. I think I really am interested in paring down. Early in the week, it seemed like everyone was going to play this giant Seattle thing, and I'm still seeing Seattle with a ton of ownership. Am I making a big mistake by fading Geno Smith? I might be. He's like, they've been, even when Walker scored 3 touchdowns, he threw for 7 million yards last week. I might have to get a little bit of Geno. Stats.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is also, the problem is, I mean, I don't know how the Giants are going to keep that one close with no players. I mean,
right. Wan'Dale Robinson gets 35 targets.
Yeah, and then what? What did they get? 14,
right, exactly.
17 points. I mean,
and Tracy and all that stuff. But the thing about Seattle is they tend to play to their competition. I mean, they did it with New England early in the season. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I have to get a little bit more Geno, and I can sub some of my Indy Jacksonville exposure over there, which I won't get rid of, but I just am a little lower on it. All right, what else do we have here? Again, I did want to throw out that I love this Brian Thomas play. I other than the weather is not great, but like I just think you want to be overweight on situations like this. He's really become the guy, I think, for Lawrence. So I'd like to be way overweight on Brian Thomas every week going forward. But I love the Tank Dell thing. I think Tank Dell is another place he's a receiver I'm expecting to probably end up with like 20% of, who's going to be like 2%, 3% owned in a great game environment, even though not necessarily the ideal matchup. And by the way, for what it's worth, though, I think this might be the week where Diggs outscores Collins, not just because it's a revenge, but the slot receivers have torched Buffalo. Meanwhile, the outside receivers have been shut down.
What about the Buffalo receivers? There's no Shakir.
Yeah, Keon Coleman is the one for me, but Kincaid is the other one, as you mentioned. Even though he's a tight end, I think that's what you go for. But look, I have him stacks with Matt Collins in there at 3,100. I just happen to like Bo Melton better than Matt Collins.
Bo Melton?
He's the 3,300 for the Packers. He's going to be a big part of the offense. He's basically going to take over the role that Wicks has been having. You know what I mean? They like those 3 receiver sets, especially with the backup, the Musgrave doubtful. But a lot of these decisions are, most of the games that I love are in the afternoon outside of a couple. So there's going to be a lot of switching today. Put it that way. I did post all my stuff, by the way, and everybody sees my exposures and all that. So for anybody on the site, check that stuff out. Rody posted his playbook today. Check out his playbook. Don't really know what else to go over. It feels like sort of a smaller. It just feels like it is a smaller slate, but it feels even smaller than it is to me. That's why it feels very strange to have no more than 20% of any receiver, which I'm going to have to change.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the and I'll put change in projections like at 12-15 or something like that. I just want to get the latest thing on the weather over there.
Yeah, for sure. And for what it's worth, by the way, when I tried to run a SaberSim bill, I'm not playing 150, but I tried to run it for 150, and they didn't get to more than 30% of anybody. And it was Whittington and then Wan'Dale Robinson were the 2 that they got to the most. And everybody else is pretty spread out. So maybe that spread out at receiver is something that a lot of people are getting to today. But I love Melton as the pivot. Melton and Tank Dell are the pivots off of the other parts of the game that people are going to be playing, in those 2 different games. So let's see. There's some news coming in. Let's see. Odell Beckham is back in our lives.
I saw that. What team is he on?
He's on the Dolphins.
Wow.
And if they had a quarterback, we would be talking about playing them, pretty soon. I think you just need to have a quarterback because I mean, Odell's still a good athlete and he's a very smart receiver. Let's see what else. Brian Robinson is active. Okay. Anthony Richardson is active. Nothing. Aaron Jones has been. That's already happening. But yeah, I think that I think there's more value out there today, but there's also less guys you need to spend up. We don't have Justin Jefferson on this slate. You know what I mean? We don't have some of the guys we love to spend up for on this slate usually.
Right.
So it's kind of weird. What do you do with the value? Most people are going to go running back, and I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but certainly want to get a little bit overexposed to some of these.
You know what? You mentioned it really quickly. What did you anything specific to FanDuel, specifically to that late game that
Yeah, I like Justin Fields and I like, if you're not playing Fields, I think you're playing Najee Harris at 6,500 on FanDuel.
Najee Harris. Okay.
But I think that's a good. I mean, this is a spot where Justin Fields could, like we saw it last week. If you put them in a tough situation where they have a hard time and they can't just sort of game manage, I think that he has a ton of upside there. So I do love the Justin Fields idea on FanDuel. And Pickens and all that stuff with it. And CeeDee Lamb as well. Even though it's a tough matchup, I think they're going to have to get him heavily involved. And I don't care if they double him. They'll run bubble screens for him all day long. He'll break one play, and he'll somehow end up getting there with like 12 catches and 100+ yards.
If I'm around, maybe I'll do a showdown thing a little later. Obviously, listen, it's not as if I don't want to do it. If I had a late sweat in the NFL, believe me, I'd go on there,
Okay.
But I just don't have them. I just don't have them, And listen, if anybody out there has a big sweat, I'll be more than happy to fire it up.
Yeah.
And the weird thing though, it's like, for whatever reason, like the NBA and like even the baseball and stuff, I could do those live sweats, whatever, for whatever reason, I'm kind of dead on Sundays at like that time of the day.
Yeah.
And I want to have dinner too. You know what I mean? Like I just don't have time to get on there, I don't think. But believe me, you, me, or anybody we knew were live for like $1 million. I'd find another way to eat dinner. So.
Yeah, I would be more interested in doing it if someone else was live for $1 million. I don't think me having a breakdown on air is the best look. No, I'm just kidding. But that's what it turns into sometimes. But yeah, it's a fun day of games. I think that I'm definitely getting less. I'm just wondering how much the ownership's going to be affected in that Jacksonville game with this weather. Because I think that it's got to go. It's got to drop.
Could anybody look at the line real quick? Is it still 3-3? Is it still 3.5? Can anybody check that for me?
Let me double check that really quick. Give me a second.
Even on
It
draft,
looks like, whoa, what is this? The line is still 3.5. It's still 45.5 total.
Okay.
So maybe, yeah, that was going to be my big game, but I guess not. One thing that people, you know, I was talking to some of my buddies last night and at the game because I took my dad, but a bunch of my cousins and friends.
That's
and stuff.
nice.
Yeah, it was really fun. But they were talking about what do you do with Lamar pairings? And I really think you can do it any which way. I don't think you need to pair him with anybody. I think you play both Cincinnati receivers with Lamar on his own. I think you play him with Derrick Henry. And I think that's my favorite way. But I think that I wouldn't give up on Zay Flowers, and I wouldn't totally give up on Andrews or Likely. So I have a little bit of a mix because I'm playing so much of them. I can sort of spread those guys out.
Uh-oh.
What's happening?
Aaron Rodgers is hurt.
Shocker. I'm telling you, these Jets fans just set themselves up all year, all the time for this. You're right. They have a good team.
Well, I don't know if he got hit. I mean, he's on the ground. We'll see what it is.
I don't have a hard time.
No, he looks like he's just a little stunned. He's walking off. He'll be all right, I think.
What's he at right now?
What do you mean?
I'll tell you what, who would you rather have right now, Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers? I think you'd much rather have Sam Darnold.
Well, it's not even close.
Yeah, just hilarious.
I mean, he's 100 years younger also. I mean, you know.
No, of course. But Darnold was like literally like they talked about him like he was like the worst player ever. And I'm wondering if we're going to be talking about Zach Wilson in 2 years or something like that. You know?
Where is he? Is he still the backup?
I think he is, but I'm not even 100% sure about that. To be
honest. I definitely think he got a bad rap too, by the way.
He has like super talents. At times he looked like really good. He has real zip on the ball. He could find things but he just did so many things poorly. But it's, again, a lot of the quarterback play is going to be a product of your system. Look, Geno Smith, same thing with the Jets. Look where he is now. He's one of the MVP, top 10 MVP guys.
It's sort of amazing.
It is. It's like if you get drafted by the Jets, you're not going to be good there, but you're going to be a good quarterback somewhere else.
It's like Michael King.
Yeah. Michael King, geez. Wow. The Yankees have probably regretting that. Well, I guess they got Soto. They can't be too upset.
No, I guess not.
That guy's so good. You got to have mixed emotions there a little bit, Cheech. Your Royals to win it all, but you want to see your Yankees.
Yeah. I can't lose there. It's fine.
Yeah, and you got your Mets.
Oh my God, the Mets are just insane.
It's so scripted. I mean, I'm telling you, it just feels like they're going to win. I don't like they were down yesterday in the 8th. My dad was saying, yeah, these Phillies are going to be. I'm like, no, the Mets are going to win this series. They'll find a way to just win games at the end in some random way, and it's cool to see. I think that if there's any team that I would bet, and I wasn't like I didn't have a vested interest like the Dodgers, I would bet the Mets to win it. I think the Mets are going to win the World Series, if not the Dodgers.
Wow.
I mean, look, you don't have these miracle runs and then just stop. I
don't know, man. The pitching has to regress. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Like Sean Manaea is coming out there, and
I think on a given day he's as good as anybody, but he also has the down days. But when that happens and they score 9 runs, it doesn't matter, And then when they don't need to score runs, they score 3. Like if they win 3-1 or they win 9-7.
That's funny.
It feels like a destiny team. I don't think that they're the best team by any means. I just think that they're on one of those kind of heater runs.
Okay, so look at this. We've got a hashtag cushion, I think. There it is. Winner, chicken dinner.
Let's go. All right. A good way to start the Sunday.
Yep.
Nice. And I wanted to play the baseball thing today, but there's not really a great slate exactly.
No, I mean, I get it, but they should realize it is the playoffs. I mean,
yeah, it's the playoffs. I wanted it to be a bigger slate yesterday too. It was a nice 4-gamer on a Sunday. You get some big tournaments out there.
I thought yesterday they didn't give a good one yesterday.
It was the 20K for first instead of the 50K for first. Basically, was the big difference.
Right.
But all you had to do was, I guess, play Shohei every day, and then play. No, none of the other Dodgers were owned at all.
It reminds me of you told me that before I started playing DFS, it didn't matter what price they made Russell Westbrook, you just played him.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you make him? 10K? I mean, what do you
right. And literally, you have to make huge compromises in your whole lineups with him. So, like the highest owned players in the slate were like Verdugo and Oswaldo Cabrera, just to get in some of the Judge, Ohtani, and Sotos.
Or to take zeros, right?
Yeah, just take the 0 and move on. That's totally fine.
You know what? The only sport that actually happens is in F1, not so much this year, but last year with F1. Like Max Verstappen, they just knew that he was going to win, like literally every race. But it didn't. But they priced him so you couldn't play him. Like,
right.
He literally couldn't play him.
Right. You got to be like half the salary. It's got to be more like how the teams really are. Like you have all your money going to like 3 players in so much of the time in so many sports.
Yeah.
And but like just make, those are the guys you need to play and that you're not allowed to play. All right. I think I'm going to get out of here in a minute. Sheets, is there anything else we should touch on before we get going?
No, I'm good. Just a little, again, I'm sure that the people who are here know this already or don't care. But NASCAR Cup Series is 2:30 today, and I don't know when Brandon is doing his live stream, but I encourage everybody to participate in that. And it's coming. You can feel it coming. It's around the corner.
10 days. Right?
The evenings of like being able to set a lineup at 6:15 and going out to dinner with only moderate pain.
Yeah,
it's over.
Yep. It's done. I hear you.
But we're like the kids say, we're here for it, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna be digging in and playing finding my my Garrett Temples to get my money back. Like the 3K guys. It's it's such a different sport, the DFS wise, to me than every other sport. I know the projections and all that, but it's just there's so much that you don't like. Literally everything, nothing matters until like the last 10 minutes before lock.
Yep.
It's intense. All right. Well, congrats on the win, man. Good start to the day.
Yeah.
And let's get after today. Good luck.
Wait, hold on a second.
Yeah.
So someone's got to try. You want to do it, or you want me to try to do it?
Oh, you got to do it. You're the one who does it anyway.
All right, everybody. So make sure to hit that like button on the way